I never thought winning the lottery would be anything more than a dream come true, but here I am, with more money than I ever imagined, and it feels like my life is falling apart.
My parents won the lottery when I was 12 years old, and our lives changed dramatically. I do have to say that, like, winning the lottery, you know, definitely installed idea of, like, anything's attainable. If anyone has anything, it's like, why not me? You know, why not me?
My parents won the lottery, and it was one of the biggest jackpots, about 80 something mil. And they were the only ones that won.
I'm your host, Miss Bree, to this video series called What's Going On in the World? What is life like for people who have won the lottery? I'm going to be sharing my hot takes on this topic, and I want y'all to do the same in the comments. Let's watch these clips together.
The lottery, and it ruined my relationship with my boyfriend and my family. I never thought winning the lottery would be anything more than a dream come true, but here I am, with more money than I ever imagined, and it feels like my life is falling apart. A few months ago, I bought a lottery ticket on a whim. I almost forgot about it until I saw the numbers on the news. I couldn't believe my eyes. I had won $600,000.
Ooh.
At first, I was in shock. I called my boyfriend, and he rushed over, equally ecstatic.
Oh, you don't share it with a boyfriend, right?
Not a boyfriend.
He began making plans for the money without really consulting me. He wanted to quit his job immediately and buy a luxury car.
That's the problem, I would assume, with someone that has money or people that have won the lottery or got inheritance, is that the people around you are counting your pockets. They want to know when you're going to spend it. They want to spend it, and they want to buy things with it. They're already calculating exactly how they're going to spend that money. And that's why her life was turned upside down. It wasn't like she instantly became a millionaire. She won $600K. And when you win money from the lottery, a good half of that goes to taxes usually. And then you get an even smaller percentage payout depending on how you claim the money, whether you claim it as a lump sum or you claim it as payments over time. And people don't even know that. They just think like, I can't wait to hit it big one day. When I win the lottery, my life is going to be amazing. A lot of times people have reported that their life completely fell apart. But let me know, would you still love to actually win the lottery if you could? Or do you think winning the lottery can actually bring bad luck to your life? Share your hot takes on that.
The $600K is not quit your job money.
Nope, it's not luxury car money.
It's life-changing money. It is not quit your job by a luxury car money.
And invest in risky ventures.
Oh, Jay, you dumbass.
Jay, there's a reason why you're poor.
When I suggested we take things slow and maybe talk to a financial advisor, he got defensive. He accused me of not trusting him and said I was trying to control everything. Then my family got involved. My parents, who I've always had a strained relationship with, suddenly wanted to reconnect. Like I was just a bank to them now. Jay became more distant and started spending a lot of time with his friends. Come home late, smelling of alcohol, and we'd argue about his spending habits and his new friends who seemed to only care about our money. The final straw came when he suggested we invest a large sum into a business venture his friends were starting. I said no, wanting to be cautious, and he exploded.
My parents won the lottery when I was 12 years old, and our lives changed dramatically. I now am in such an odd place as a 23-year-old in a very different world today, and also just like trying to, I don't know, mentally adjust to growing up and also the money not necessarily existing the way it.
Ooh, so his family won the lottery when he was 12 and he's now 23, which means it took about 11 years for the money to dry up. So now he has to compare what his childhood was like to how he's handling life as an adult. That's gotta be a big difference in reality. Let me know your opinions down below on your perception of what you think life would be if you won the lottery versus what you think life would be after the money has dried up. Do you think that you would honestly be happier before winning a lottery or after, once the money has been spent? I'm super curious to hear your thoughts on that.
The lottery changed our life in many, many ways, from socially, you know, with our family, friends, you know, going to school and work and like whatever, to even like, I don't know, mentally and I think chemically. Us kids were very, very lucky, and we really didn't understand the magnitude of how much money it was because our parents raised us very well, and, you know, we were always taught to be grateful and, you know, only get certain gifts and things like that on birthdays and Christmas. So we were spoiled, but we were spoiled with reason. We did go from a very standard, normal house to a beautiful, gigantic mansion that my parents, like, designed down to like every single detail, and that obviously was the start, I think, of like, you know, this delusional reality. I think the difficulty of like understanding, you know, the position that like my family was in, you know, still gets me every day, because we comparably were like most wealthy families that had like a beautiful home, had like assets and everything like that. So we were secure, but my parents didn't make money.
So basically, he's been conditioned from a young age about what success looks like. To be honest, maybe his perspective is success looks like you get lucky, then you enjoy that money for as long as it lasts, and then you go back to whatever your set point was before you had that money. And I think that's the bias that a lot of parents have and don't realize when they're raising their children in a very privileged environment, is that you're shaping their perception of what success, hard work, money, value really looks like. It's one thing to be raised in a way where you went without, so when you finally succeed, you want your children to enjoy life and not have the same traumas you did. But it's another thing to overspoil them or set the groundwork for what the expectation of success actually looks like. I'm super curious to have this conversation with those of you who are parents about the fact that how does that change your perception, or how has it shifted you as a person when you see the way that you can raise your kids, or that you do, compared to what you think ultimately is best. Because it's a slippery slope to want to spoil your children, show them the best, give them everything they want. But in the other hand, you want them to know, like, look, success is earned, money is earned, value is built. So share your opinions on that down below.
We did not make a lot of money. We lived off of like bank interest and, you know, getting mortgages on our rental properties, which was a huge blessing and so freaking lucky. Comes a time where, you know, you go from having a lot of cash to not having a lot of cash and only having asset money, you know? So they had to eventually like take out money on the assets, and then when they divorced, the assets went away. So to this day, like, we're definitely not there where we were in terms of financial security. And I think that has like been a very difficult thing to grasp, because I actually moved out of home way too young, in my opinion. I think I just continued to live the life that was delusionally aligned to how I grew up. And meanwhile, my entire family they felt the shift more than me, and therefore like went along with that. I truly I don't know, I always wish that I knew more people that had like grown up in this kind of odd circumstance, or, you know, just even to understand, you know, a lot of like the anxieties and like the mental health like effects from growing up. But I do have to say that like winning the lottery, you know, definitely installed idea of like anything's attainable. If anyone has anything, it's like, why not me? You know, why not me?
My family won the lottery when I was younger, and this is the story. I was like in second grade, I believe, I was going into second grade. I was in first grade, and my parents won the lottery. And it was one of the biggest jackpots in Texas, about 80 something mil. And they were the only ones that won, which is pretty unheard of.
So her family won $80 million. And because they were the only ones that hit those numbers, they didn't have to split the pot. That is really rare for a pot to hit that big and you not have to split it. Because a lot of you may not know, but sometimes when people win the lottery, other people also happen to have played those numbers. So that pot gets divvied up. The amount that's won gets divvied up to everyone who actually technically won. But her family didn't have to split it with any other winners. Of course, you got taxes. You got how the payout happens. So that kind of changes how much money you get. But 80 million, that's going to be deduced to somewhere possibly around 30 to 50 million that the family gets to actually have access to. That's a big deal to instantly become rich overnight. What would you do if you won that much money? What is the first thing you're going to buy? What is the first thing you're going to pay for? I know we can go on and on about all these magical things we would do with the money, but what's the most pressing thing that you would be like, thank God I can either afford to buy this thing or I can afford to pay off this particular thing because I just won the lottery.
Multiple people will win and then they split it amongst themselves. But yeah, that was crazy. I did not know, but I was a kid. I didn't understand this. So I was asleep the whole night and my parents had their friends over and they were all like freaking out like they just won the lottery. Like before this, my dad is a cop. My mom works at AT&T. We live in a apartment and my dad's security for the apartment. So I think we were getting rent free or like rent off because of the setup. We were not rich. We were not even middle class, I would say. We were just getting by. I went to a pretty like rundown school at the beginning, and then we moved after they won the lottery. We lived in a hotel for months and months and months while we were house searching, and at that time it was really kind of scary because people were threatening to like take me, which was really freaky. And
That is so scary. That's the dark side of winning that much money. Is usually it ends up being public. Even some states won't allow you to claim the money anonymously or privately. Some people have to actually physically be present and receive the check or the money from the commissioner or the person that's operating the lottery in their said state. So you would be surprised the type of death threats and the type of kidnapping scandals that happen behind the scenes when people win the lottery. They say all that glitters is not gold. Some people have literally reportedly given away their lottery winnings publicly because dealing with the backlash was just too dangerous and just too like upsetting to their quality of life. All money is not good money, y'all. So that's why I'm curious to know, do you think your life would be significantly better if you won the lottery versus how life is like before it? It's so easy to say, man, but if I had the money, my life would change overnight. I wouldn't have to ever stress or worry about money. Sometimes you replace one stressor for another. And in this case, she grew up extremely afraid because of so many attempts to be kidnapped. That's the scary part about the fact that when people out there know you have a lot of money or access to resources or you're doing so well, sometimes it can put a target on their back like it did this family.
I was getting a lot of like messages from like on, AIM, AOL or whatever. I got messages from friends and stuff. So, but I was young. Like this all didn't really like make sense to me. I was young. But then we moved and I grew up in a really lovely, beautiful home and great neighbors and like all this stuff. Life changed. But for me, it wasn't like this big change just because I was so young. But it definitely affected me in high school when people knew like who my family was, and it made me feel like I couldn't trust certain people. My closest friend turned out to be such a moocher, and I did not even see it until I was in my late 20s. I unfortunately do not really have a relationship with my family now, so I don't have any of the money. Don't come for me.
That's the smartest thing she could have said, y'all. And whether it's true or not, people don't need to be in your business. When you're doing well, 9 times out of 10, other people are not. And they typically can get jealous or envious or upset or feel resentful. Like, why did you win the lottery? You didn't deserve it. I have more problems than you. People always perceive their problems as more than the next person. A lot of times people even judge how much you deal with in life based on how you wear your pain. If they don't see you agonizing, complaining, down on your luck visibly, they think that you're good, you're doing amazing. You never know what goes on behind closed doors. It seems like this money ripped her family apart. She doesn't even have a relationship with her parents. Therefore, she doesn't have any access to the money. So don't come for her. For safety reasons, it's smart that she said that online, whether it's true or not. That's the thing. You never know what's going on in someone's life. Winning the lottery has changed a lot of people's lives, but some of these stories I'm hearing, it's completely ripped apart their reality.
I work a full-time job and go to school and barely make it by myself, okay? It is an interesting story. It is something that doesn't happen to most people, and it is crazy when I look back at like how different our lives could have and would have been if this wouldn't have happened.
If you enjoyed watching this video and want to see more videos from me, check them out here. Also, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. I don't want you to miss the next video.